All right, so I'm going to be talking about live ops. Just to start, why don't we have a show of hands? Who has a game in live ops or plans to run a game in live ops? All right, so some of you, not many of you. Hopefully this will be useful for those of you who do. We have a lot of learnings that we're here to share. For those who don't do it and maybe haven't been planning on doing it, maybe this will help you to decide that it's a good idea. So, I'm a product manager. Who am I really? I've been in the game industry for 6.5 years in free-to-play as a product manager, starting way back in the Facebook days of LOL apps, following on with PopCap and EA, finally at Space Ape since 2014. I've been a product manager on Rival Kingdoms and Transformers Earth Wars, both of these titles from development through launch through their live ops phases. Space Ape has 3 live games right now. Starting in September of 2013, we came out with Samurai Siege, followed by Rival Kingdoms, and then Transformers Earth Wars. All 3 of these games are built-in battle games. All 3 of these games, success is built upon really effective live ops, and live ops means something very specific at Space Ape. But these games are just our past and our present. Our future is a whole new set of genres, a whole new set of games. And it's really important for us to think about live ops with these new genres and games and take the learnings that we've gotten from Build and Battle and apply them to these new games. So, if you take one thing away from this presentation, the TLDR is that if you want to run successful live ops, you have to think about it early. You have to build it from the very beginning. You have to think about it during development and make sure that every time you make a decision, it's how it affects live ops is taken into account. So if you're doing this, some key questions to ask yourself during development, during the time when you're thinking about starting your live ops is, what is the primary reward for live ops? What are you going to give players? What are they going to chase? What do they want to buy? What is it about your game that really drives players to do something? And for Space Ape, in Rival Kingdoms, this was the Ancients, very expensive content, big picture, abilities, gameplay. In Transformers Earth Wars, unsurprisingly, it's Transformers, which are 3D models that actually are both a vehicle and robot form, so it's 2 3D models, expensive animations, gameplay, VFX, all sorts of crazy stuff. The second question is, how are you going to deliver this reward? What are the vectors by which you give these rewards to players? For Space Ape, this is events, which are weekend engagement events where people compete or act with their friends or just on their own to earn prizes, and also bundles, time-limited promotions for different crystals and gacha. So the last thing is, what will this effect be on your game systems? So what's going to happen when you put these things out in the world and they're in your game and player behavior is changing and your economies are changing? What is that effect? So let's go into it with the content. Content drives revenue. There's no 2 ways about this. Every single piece of content is a potential for revenue, and what people want is new content. So this is a revenue graph from Rival Kingdoms. It's incredibly spiky. This is something that we see all the time with our live ops. And all of these spikes are specific Ancients and specific events around those Ancients. So what does this mean for us? We have these Ancients, they're coming out, there's an event, it's a big piece of content, it's a big piece of work, it's an event, it's out there, and then this big expensive piece of content is now used up. We need to do the next week something else, we need a new Ancient, we need this pipeline. And that problem is expensive and hard to solve, and if you don't think about it from the beginning, you could be in a lot of trouble. So with our second game, we came up with, or third game, sorry, Transformers, we came up with a pipeline, a life cycle management system. And every single robot in Transformers follows this life cycle management, and it impacts our revenue in a very positive way, and it's a way for us to manage the life cycle of each piece of content. So I'm going to walk through it. What happens is we have a new bot, big expensive piece of content, like I said, and the very first thing that happens is it's given out in an event. We have various types of events. There are only 2 types of events that you could get a bot. They're the most impactful, biggest on marketing, hardest to achieve, and very limited drop rates. Once that event has run, those bots then disappear. They're no longer available in the game. The people that have earned them have them. The people that haven't earned them see people who have them but can't get them. A couple weeks later, the first promotion comes online. This is a promotion where there's a bundle only for dollars that you can buy that has crystals with a chance at earning this bot. That is usually paired with a lighter event that doesn't have a bot, and after that weekend event and that bundle, it's gone again, disappears. A couple weeks later, comes into the store as a gacha crystal. You can buy it for premium currency now in the store, as many as you want, there's no limit, but again, disappears. Finally, it comes back. Now it's here permanently. It's in your premium gacha crystal, available all the time. It's in the free gacha pool. It's available to the wider audience. So what does this do? Right here we have our bot ownership rates for one of our bots, Strafe. This is an Autobot. We do a star system, so there's a 3 and a 4-star version of this bot. What happens to bot ownership rates, and this is spenders only, is that the event comes out. There's a very strict drop rate. We know exactly what percentage of users are going to get it. Goes away. That ownership rate is now flat. The first bundle comes online. People have an opportunity to buy it. Ownership rates go up. Then the first crystal appears. Again, ownership rates go up. Then, a couple weeks later, finally it makes its way into the gacha premium character pool. The ownership rates go up by quite a lot. It's now in the wider pool. But you can see from this graph that at the very top rate, even the 3-star is only owned by 18% of spenders. So what this means is that we can do this bundle again. We can sell this bot again. We can use this bot for a lot longer than we otherwise would have because we've managed that life cycle. So let's talk about events. Events change player behavior. When you put an event into your game, the way in which players interact with your game changes. And this has a number of interesting side effects. Here is event battle rates. So this is battles per player per event day in events specifically. So every event has a name, and this is the event rates over time. And what you can see here is that over time, as we ran more and more events, players learned that events were good, events were cool, rewards were great, and they wanted to battle more. So over time, we doubled the amount of battles per player from the very beginning to now. That's a big change from their behavior in the start of time, but also if you look at, this is Rival Kingdoms now, their weekly averages versus their event averages, you can see that not only do their events go up over time for the events themselves, but compared to a regular day, an event has doubled the amount of battles as a normal day. And that means that these events require a lot of effort by the player, and these are averages, so you know they're players on the far end of that distribution that are doing crazy things, hundreds of battles, doubles, like 200, 300 battles in a single weekend. And that's a lot of fatigue, that's a lot of effort that you're asking of your players. So what do you do about that? We've created what we call the event rating system, the finger system. So we classify every event by 1 finger, 2 finger, 3 fingers, or 4 fingers, depending on what we think it's going to do to the player. So when we start with this system, there's the 1 finger events, which are engagement events, low monetization potential, not fatiguing at all. They have a very strict number of battles that can be fought, strict limits. Players don't tend to like them that much because they don't have great rewards, but it's our way of saying, it's enough battling, you've been very busy for a while, let's take an easy time and have this fun little engagement event. 2 finger, it's a little bit more intense. Now we're talking about a weekend in which you're working with an alliance of 40 members and you're working to a collective goal. Still not particularly fatiguing. This is something that doesn't have a bot as a reward. It has something else that's soft currency or shards or pieces of lesser crystals. And there is engagement, there is monetization, there is some fatigue, but compared to the 1 finger, it's only a little bit more. Then we start getting to the 3 finger. This is where we talk about having a new bot, something that you have to grind for, that top alliances are going to get, that your average alliance might not be able to achieve. These have a good reward at the top. They're very engaging. Everyone's working together towards a goal. They're making money on the skips of battle and various in-battle monetization mechanics, and they are fatiguing. And then finally you have the daddy of all events, the 4 finger. These are competition events. You're working with your alliance, competing with other people on a global leaderboard. Only the very tippy top players get the best rewards. So there's the top amount of monetization, the top amount of fatigue, and the top amount of engagement. And what we do is we classify events like this, then we group them into these things we call sagas, and we run a cadence in which we manage the player behavior so that they don't get overly fatigued, but we can be predictable. And that cadence usually follows at the bottom here, which is a 3, 4, 2, 1. That's actually completely wrong. That's weird. That's out of order. It's a 3, 2, 4, 1. So you go 3, new bot, new event, hey, it's a saga, get in here. Then there's 2, you've worked off that bot, let's take a small break. 4, biggest event ever, really competitive, go at it all day long. And then 1, relax, chill out. Nothing gonna be this weekend, take some time to recoup and reset yourselves. So there's another impact of all these battles and events, and that's on the soft currency economy. So what happens is that you get this system in which you're playing this battle and you're fighting battles and you're earning resources, and the soft currency economy starts to get out of whack. And what you see here is a graph with 2 different games. The blue line is Rival Kingdoms. The orange line is Transformers. And what's happening here is 2 different battle loops. In Rival Kingdoms, the event loop is the battle loop. Everything that you earn during a normal battle happens en masse during an event. So the soft currency spikes on every single event. You're sitting there on a weekend and soft currency is going up, going up, going up, going up, going up. By contrast, the Transformers graph shows dips every weekend. And that's a very specific choice we made, was to remove the event loop from the regular battle loop and to set event-specific rewards, which were experience and points, and battle-specific rewards, which were soft currency. And what this meant is that the Rival Kingdoms economy gets very inflated over time, whereas the Transformers economy actually deflates on the weekends because people are spending their time doing other things, and then has much more longevity. So, if you're going to take away from this, what do you need to know? 1, content is key. So you build content, you sell content. That's what we do. But you need to understand your pipeline, and you need to optimize that life cycle. You want to know how each piece of content affects your game, what it does to file size, what it does to loading times, how long it takes to make each piece of content, and then you want to deliver content to players in a way that's very manageable. Second thing is, events change everything. When you put an event in your game, player behavior changes. So you need to adapt to that. You have to understand this impact on player behavior, and you need to manage that fatigue. Because if you let players battle as much as they want, they will burn themselves out. And we've seen this with our first game, Samurai Siege. We went event, 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 hardcore, hardcore. We saw revenue go up. We were like, this is amazing. It's never going to end. And then all of a sudden, churn rates are going up. DAU's going down. We're not sure what's going on. And it was fatigue. Players just couldn't keep up with the event structure. Their alliances were putting too much pressure on them. We were putting too much pressure on them. So the cadence allows us to be very discerning about how we do that. And then the last takeaway is beware of inflation. So you're here, you're thinking about your economy, you're thinking about events. The best thing you can possibly do is to give specific rewards for specific actions. So do an event, get this reward. Do a battle, get this reward. If you can separate those game loops, you're more likely to succeed because you can balance one in one way and balance the other in their normal play pattern and have good results. And then the second thing is exponentials are your friend. In a game economy, if you have a lot of headroom and you have events and you can give rewards in those events, you can build ridiculous curves of economies that take months and years, as long as you know that, hey, these events are going to change behavior, they're going to get a lot more battles. So what we're going to do is we're going to throw in some extra taps here and there. Maybe this event's going to be triple XP, maybe this event's going to be double coins or something like that, and that lets you get away with it. And that is all I have. So, questions?